Hey, what's up team? Eddie Gray here at your service. Hopefully you're doing well. Welcome to the channel Resources for the Modern Creative, where we help you become a better producer. This is my official review of the SSL UC1, something I picked up some time ago, and before just trying to release a video without having any experience and having spent any time with this unit, I decided to take it slow. I decided that at this juncture, I'm not going to rush like I used to when I first started. At some point, you got to change the game up and try something new. So let's talk about the build. It is solid. Anything that you would expect from an SSL unit. Super sturdy. I like the feel of the knobs. You got nice clicky responses here. It's 10 out of 10, honestly. Fantastic build. I love the fact that we do have stands in the back which allow you to, basically pick this up or drop it down depending on your needs. The layout is very easy to understand, and if you haven't seen my video on what an SSL actually does, go ahead and check out the last video I did so you can understand all the curvature and stuff. We're not going to go over that. So we have the EQ channel strip divided here on the left. Then you have a bus compressor, which is basically another plugin, which you can see here on the right hand side. To the right of that, we have the dynamic processor, which is basically part of the initial channel strip. So there's really two plugins in one. I love the tactile feel, and I also love the visual response that I get when I look at the bus compressor, which we'll see here in a second. The goal of this video is to, tell you why I bought this and if you should buy it, depending on your current position. And then basically I'll just start demoing it and showing you some of the various feature, like the fast attack on the compressor, how to sidechain, perhaps playing with the order of the dynamic processors, the filters, so on and so forth. So if you want to learn a little bit more about the UC1, SSL channel strips in general, and if this is the right purchase for you, go ahead and stay tuned and watch until the end. Okay, so just to start, let's listen to the subject matter at hand. Take a listen. All right, so if I go into the mixer, you can see that I have this reserved for the last couple of slots on the inserts. You don't have to do it this way. I just have this demo up, and I just decided this was the cleanest way to go about it for myself. Okay, so why did I buy the UC1? There's a couple reasons why. As I mentioned in the last video, workflow is super important for me to be able to really commit to sitting down, mixing for 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, 12 hours a day, and to be able to really enjoy my user experience. I look at Logic 100 hours a day, and so I really wanted to be able to really enjoy the ride, right? They say it's not just about getting to the destination, it's about the journey. So that's kind of the thinking behind it. And, after having spent a couple of weeks with this, I don't think it's absolutely necessary. I think it really depends on where you are, how much you mix, and how much you love the SSL workflow. Because if this parametric workflow doesn't work for you, you're probably going to come away feeling like you lost something here. So number one, this is all about workflow. Number two, you don't need this unit. Number three, for those of you that do like the SSL, then this is going to be an absolute roller coaster. I love the idea of taking my eyes away from the DAW. Could be for 20 minutes, could be for 30 minutes straight. And this unit allows you to do that. How? Well, they have a 360 workflow where you can use basically a overlayered DAW kind of workflow. Almost reminds me of the UAD workflow as well. I don't really use it this way. I can see benefits, but you're basically going through all the various bus compressors or all the various channel strips. That's not how I use it. The way that I use it is to basically create detailed EQ curves and to really just add that SSL element to my tracks. Later on, I'll be doing a review of the Fader one and the console one by Softtube, and I'll explain how I use that. But this is more detailed, meticulous work for me. I love the sound of the bus compressor as well. You really can't beat it. Love how punchy it sounds, how warm it sounds. So that's essentially why I bought it. I want to spend more time looking at what I'm doing. I want to see gain reduction levels and experience the mix rather than just see the mix. You know, we're all very visual creatures. No one can deny that. And so something like this for me at this time has been extremely helpful. And to be quite honest, it's really helped me understand EQ at a new level. So for those of you that are looking to mix more and to commit to the SSL ecosystem, then I highly recommend this. For those of you that don't like to be restricted by 1 or 2 plugins, this is again not the unit for you, because you are going to be forced, at least for now, until they upgrade this and expand, you're going to be forced to use 1 or 2 plugins. If you're looking for more flexibility, malleability, I highly recommend Softtube, Console 1, and Fader 1. So last thing to cover is just the price point. Considering that all you're doing is controlling a plugin, that may be a hit or miss for some of you. Like, if you have budgetary constraints and you're wondering if you should buy this or that, this is not something I would buy if I was a beginner. I really wouldn't, because again, as I mentioned in my last video, this is equivalent to driving to the liquor store either in a Lemon, like a really beat up car, or a really fancy Bugatti, Tesla, whatever. So you don't need this. It's just a whole lot of fun. And that's basically my aim, is to see how much fun I can have, how much fun can I extract from the moment. And on top of that, I really love the sound. As I said, I'm super committed. So that is my general review. If you have any questions, comments, if you want to add anything yourself, please do. And now let's go into the workflow itself. So the first thing I want to do is create a little bit of separation between the percussion part and the drummer. Now, we can solo these inside of the unit. So I'm going to go ahead and solo the first track, and then I'll go into the drummer track and solo that as well. Again, because I want to keep my eyes away from the unit, I'm not going to use the 360 view. I'm just going to simply navigate back to the tom and percussion section. Okay, I like that. I want to add a little bit of body to the low end. So one of the things here that I really like, if you look at this graphic, is it's telling me what the EQ value is. So here I have a value of 200 Hertz, and I'm going to go ahead and bump that a little bit with a wide curve. Okay, and I do have a low cut at 30 Hertz, so I'll bring that up to 50. And then on top of that, I'm just going to go ahead and create a low shelf, let's say at 100, and just bring that down a bit, just to make sure that I'm not having any conflicting EQ problems. Okay, so on the congas, I'm going to go ahead and compress them a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and take away the solo function here, and you can see that that has been cut from the mix. So has this one, the MIDI file as well. And then now I'm just working on the percussion. And the idea here is that I want to compress it just a bit. So I'm going to use the dynamic strip here. Even just hitting the value there just a bit, you can really hear the response. Let me go ahead and bypass it so you can hear the difference. So that sounds really good. We can use RMS compression or peak compression. Let's see if we can hear the difference. So peak compression is going to sound a lot more intense. I'll work with the attack a little bit later here, and maybe just, let's increase the release time a bit. Again, without it. Okay, so now let's bring back the drummer. So we'll solo that, and let's hear it. Okay, I'm gonna add a little bit of a high shelf here. I'm thinking somewhere in the high end. Let's go. Okay, and then rather than use a shelf, I just decided to use a bell filter. And see, most of the time, I mean, honestly, 95% of the time, my eyes are glued to the unit. So if you have a setup that is good for that, or you're just simply quite tired of looking at the screen all the time, how often do we use EQ? How often do we use dynamic processing? We can see that this is very helpful. Let me go ahead and bypass this one more time in the context of this specific sub mix. So that sounds pretty solid. On the percussion, I'm also going to locate the bus compressor and just apply, again, just a little bit of compression just to make sure that I get a little bit more of a pop. Here we go. Okay, on the unit, we can actually oversample. So I'm going to go over to the plugin and bring this up as it will increase the quality of the sound. Okay, so without both of these, all right, so you can see why I've decided to go down this route. Right? Just a fun workflow. And to be honest, it's different. I've been doing this for 8 years, really committing myself 2 feet in every single day, 6 days a week. And so this is what it's all about. All right, let's go ahead and start to sidechain something. So let me get this out of the screen. And I'm looking to bring up track number 2. And let's go ahead and pop up both of these units again. We have sidechain capability here on the top right. And I'm going to show you how to work that now. And so we're going to go ahead and sidechain this to the drums. So it's going to sound like. All right, so now we hear the kick bass pattern, track number 3, drummer. And I want to go ahead and tell drummer that I don't want a snare pattern. I just want the kick, so it should sound like this. Okay, now I want to create a relationship between the track that's going to duck, in this case track 2, and then the trigger, which is track 3. So we want to look at drummer here. I usually try and sift around and understand what I'm looking for, and sometimes if I just need a visual cue, I'll type in SC like this. And so I'm going to go ahead and we could sidechain through here or here, but I'm going to use the channel strip and I'll go into bus and I'm looking for SC. And so you can see that there. So now I've created a relationship between these 2 tracks. Now, one of the things I want to do is I want to mute this track because I simply just am interested in hearing the effect. And so let's go ahead and create this sidechain relationship now. I've muted the drummer track, and now I'm looking to basically tell the unit that I want to use the external sidechain. Now, there's another feature here called dynamic sidechain, which I'll get into another day, another video. If you want to see that, go ahead and hit me in the comments. But I'm going to go ahead and just tell the unit, hey, we're interested in using the external sidechain in order to start to make some magic happen. And so what I'm going to do now is trigger the compressor and we can create that relationship. Now remember, I'm muting the drummer track, but that doesn't mean that we're not going to be able to hear this effect. Check it out. Now, it's a bit cumbersome because not only do we have to create a sidechain here inside of Logic's plugin, but we also have to create it here internally within the plugin. So just a heads up, that's how that works. And if you want to get a better sound, I highly recommend you play with the input and the output. And then on top of that, play with the release times. Sometimes I really like to drive the input gain to just get a thicker sound. And then on top of that, I'll actually EQ, add some bottom end just to kind of make it sound thicker. Something like this. Okay, so let's go ahead and bring the drummer back in. Sounds like this. Okay, so that's one way to think about it. Another way to think about it, if I reset that value, is actually, I don't want to use this as a compressor. I want to use this as a gate. Now we could do this individually, or we can do this together. And I really like that sound. So let's go ahead and finish off this video by doing just that. So let's set up the gate first, then we'll set up the compressor, and then we'll call it. So as of now, unless I press that button, this will become an expander. So it's a gate right now. Again, we have the ability to use a fast attack. And so what I'm going to do is set this up in such a way where the sound is now going to open when it hits the threshold. Range determines how much of it you're going to hear. Let's check it out. So that's a really interesting sound. If you're getting a little bit of a click, you might want to increase the release time. Most important there is you want to make sure that the hold value is not too far up because it will start to lack that gating effect. Check it out. So you see, we're not hearing the gate because it's basically holding on to the signal too long. Okay, and again, if you want to hear this a bit more intensified, bring up the input gain. Again, add some bottom end, just a little bit of frequency content. Here we go. Again, my favorite is to use both of these in tandem to really get an exaggerated effect. Check this out. So if I just have the gate, it sounds like this, which is a cool sound unto itself, but when we bring in that sidechain compression, we get this. Okay, let's bring everybody back into the mix. First track, the drummer as well, and then the step sequencer. Let's go. Okay, so to finalize this, I'm going to go ahead and select every track. Let's go ahead and listen to the results without the SSL workflow. Okay, so I want that snare to be a little bit more controlled. We can either do that here. I feel like we get a little bit better bite here and a little bit more kind of rounded warmth quality there. So I'm going to go ahead and select the bus compressor here under step sequencer. And so let's go ahead and get that snare to warm up a tad. Here we go. Okay, I want to go ahead and cut off. So I'm going to use a fast cut time there. Okay, a long release is going to hold this down, so let's make it a faster release, and basically I'll just kind of move back until I get that desired quality. Okay, so here's without it. It's really up in front, and now we get a really nice sound just by simply adding this great compressor. Check it out. I'll go ahead and select the step sequencer here as well. And what I'll do is I'll just high shelf out some of the high end. Conversely, we can high cut. So let's go somewhere in the like 15K range, and then basically compensate for that, add a little bit of bite with either a belt filter or a shelf. Let's go. Okay, so without those two, check out the snare. And with. Such a great tool. I love the ability to blend, make things stick out, have a dynamic relationship here, the ability to use the E channel strip, the G channel strip, and there's actually a couple things I haven't talked about, again, specifically the ordering of the various filters to the dynamic processor and how you can also affect your signal in that way. So stay tuned for that. So in conclusion, my opinion hasn't changed. I think this unit is great for intermediate, advanced individuals, people looking to learn the SSL workflow, and people that, you know, have been doing this long enough where they're ready for a change and they're ready to get their eyes onto something new. I think it does enough that it's worth the cost of admission. But again, that's just my own personal opinion. Please choose responsibly, because the goal is to use the unit and to make sure that it stays in your workflow for a long time to come. All right, guys, this is Eddie Gray. Thank you guys so much for supporting the channel. Go ahead and like, subscribe, go ahead and share this video. And if you want to support me, details are in the link in the description. Thank you guys so much for everything. Take good care of yourselves. I want you to have a great end of year, and I look forward to creating more content in 2022. With that being said, I'm out of here. Take care. We'll see you. Cheers.